For those of you joining us for the first time, Women in Finance Nigeria is a networking platform for Nigerian women in the UK financial services industry. It gives you an opportunity to meet, share, and scale up your skills and opportunities for you as well. We also showcase what female leadership in the financial services look like. We meet once every quarter, and this is our second meeting for 2021. So, you know, I'm really, really looking forward to this because we've had one so far, and this is number 2. You can also find our details on LinkedIn. You can follow us on LinkedIn and also on Instagram, and we will post the details in the chat. So do look out for that as well, so that you know where to follow up with information and updates on our next events. Today's conversation is going to be very engaging, and we hope to share tips and nuggets that will help you reposition your career post-COVID. And also, before I go on, I just wanted to introduce our ExCo members. So my name is Florence, and I am the Executive Secretary. There's also Ami, who is not able to make it today, and she is the Financial Secretary. Naomi Ojo, she is the Membership Director. And also we have 2 lovely Vice Presidents. We have Stella Ozuku. I hope I said your surname right, Stella.
Okuzu.
It's so bad because I need to work on pronouncing Nigerian names. And I'm Nigerian, but I'm not good at pronouncing my own, Nigerian names. Okuzu. I said it right now.
Yes, you did. Thanks.
Good. And we have also the second Vice President, which is Teresa Obi. Teresa, would you like to give us a nice wave as well? Lovely. And we have our chairperson who will be moderating this session, looking lovely, smiling, giving us a nice smile, Miss Ona Uju Iruku. I said it right. Okay, Miss Uju, could you give us a nice wave? And I'm going to hand it over to her, and I look forward to the session. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much. That's Florence, London-based Florence, struggling with our Nigerian names. We'll get her a Yoruba tutor, maybe someone from Oxford who will help her out with the names. But thank you very much, Stella. That was a nice, warm welcome. So good evening again, everybody, and welcome to this second meeting of our, okay, I need to take away, are you guys the ones that I can see? Let me take away Stella and Naomi, can you help me do that? Okay, I got it. Okay, just a minute, please. Good, okay, Stella and Florence, I'll leave you. All right, so yes, welcome to our second meeting. And as usual, this is Women in Finance Nigeria. What we try to do is give you a platform where you can meet, speak, engage, ask questions, as we also showcase what female leadership in financial services looks like. We know that with all of the statistics going on, the detriment that we believe that women of color have suffered post-COVID, everything has changed. And today we just want to be able to pick up a couple of tips and a couple of nuggets, as we have career nuggets here, that will help us along the way. There's no one that COVID has not impacted, be it from the fact that we've all had to pivot from going into the city to work, to having to stay home and work and adapt to that. You know, you're a worker at home, you're a mom, you're the cook, you're the driver, and you're just about everything else. I mean, you've always been that, but now it's all in one place, you know, at once, and you have to do all of them. So you need serious organizational skills. Secondly, the whole work frame and structure and ecosystem has changed. You know, employee expectations are different now, and even employer expectations have to change because there must be operational continuity. We can't say because it's COVID, then we all just throw our hands up in the air and give up. And so the issues around it, what's going to happen? Am I going to be measured in the same way? Is my performance? My performance definitely is impacted, but then what can I do to ensure that I don't suffer for these 2 years and I can keep going on in my career and progressing? So those are just some of the things that will, drive the conversation today. And please, if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat box. Or if you're bold and courageous and you want to speak, just raise your hand and we'll be happy to take the questions. All right, so today I'm very excited to be moderating with Morenike today. And for the simple reason that I met Morenike, was it about a year ago? Yes, and there are many things that I didn't know about her, even though we had engaged. Even though we had engaged, and moving on, I then got into understanding what she did, and I realized that she had received an award from an award, what do they call them, from a group that I actually work with very, very closely, and that's the Wise Women. She had received the Wise Women Award, I think, in 2019. And so I thought, oh, well, then that makes her someone that we should get to talk with, and who should come share with us on this platform. So I will very quickly just read a very short introduction for Morenike, and then we'll dive right into the conversation, okay? So Morenike Ajayi is a multiple award winner. She's a chartered accountant. She's an author. She's an inspirational public speaker, an executive producer, and TV presenter. And she's also a wife and a mom. So talk about wearing very many hats, okay? Because she had a need for change, she birthed the group called Career Nuggets in June 2015. And it's a social enterprise that comprises a career development TV program and an event arm, which is designed to educate, inspire, and empower people who wish to advance in the workplace. They run workshops, seminars, and they have a career club. She's also the executive producer and TV presenter of Career Nuggets, which is a TV program airing on Sky 193, Mondays to Wednesdays at 5 p.m. and on Sunday at 3 p.m. And she is the author of 2 best-selling books, Career Nuggets, Bite-Sized Tips for Career Progression, and Career Nuggets again, Undeniable Secrets for Career Success. Now, she's not only about Career Nuggets, but she's also the Commercial and Finance Director for London Pensions Funding Authority. And I saw something again on LinkedIn a couple of days ago. You're the chairperson of a new committee that has just been set up. So I think Morenike has the capacity to dive deep into our topic today and give us some really, 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 really good nuggets. So Morenike, it's a pleasure to have you on this platform today. You're very welcome. And please feel free to share your wealth of experience with us in Women in Finance Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies. Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Uji, for that wonderful introduction. I'm getting used to saying that's me, actually, because when I think of where I'm coming from, yes, I was born in the UK. I was born in Wales. I'm a Welsh Black lady. But when I was 9, I went back to Nigeria. And when I went back to Nigeria, I didn't go back to a place that looked like Wales. I wasn't privileged. My mom wanted to be with her family, so I found myself in a remote place in Ibadan, in Nigeria, and it was very tough because we lived in a place where the basic amenities were not there. Water, light. So we needed water. I'll go to the stream, fetch it on my head, and so you can imagine going through that change. I was 9 and my mom couldn't afford the primary school, so she homeschooled me, and I got into a federal school. But it was tough for me in the federal school because I just didn't think I fit in because I had the Welsh accent and where all the challenges of living, schooling with affluent people. So I grew up with a lot of insecurity. And I grew up with being timid and shy and not being able to come out. So when I hear people read my profile, I say, well, Morenike, you've come a long way. But then again, I'm almost, in a couple of few days' time, I'll be half a century. So it's like, oh God, God has been good. And bear with me, I am a Christian. So I will be saying, I know it's finance professionals, but if I do, just bear with me, because everything about me is anchored on my faith. And that's why. So it's nothing about me as an individual, but I have my deep roots in the religion I believe in. So it's such a honor to be here. And I hope that this can be an interactive session. I even though I have my slides, I want us to just feel free. I might touch on something that is not even relevant to you, but you might have pressing questions. So I'm not going to speak too much. But before I go into my PowerPoint presentation, I want to have a feel for how you're feeling this evening. So in the chat box, I'd like you to put a phrase, qualify yourself. I want to see some chats. How are you feeling despite everything going on with the pandemic? It seems like we're getting back into the new normal, but how are you feeling? Let me get a feel. Grateful, blessed, love that. I'm expecting still, nice. More, there are about 20 online. I'll put mine. Yes, I feel blessed. Any more? Anybody putting anything? How do you feel? In your job situation, do you feel happy about it? Excited? Okay. I would like two more. And I will start sharing my slides. Okay. All right. Thank you. So generally, I can't see can I still, there's still some, let me just see the chats and get a feel. So we're feeling very positive this evening, which is a good thing. Looking forward to more, grateful, hopeful, inspired. Awesome. So, yes, I'm Morenike Ajayi. I am an accountant. And when I was told to talk about, I'm just going to minimize you so I can't see you as I talk through my slides. So when I was told to speak about career decisions and career choices post-pandemic, the main thing that came to me with all this is change. In essence, what we're talking about is change. And even in my current position at work, I am actually going through a massive bit of change because the pandemic itself brings in some things that you don't plan for. And you mentioned something about the ecosystem has changed, employers' expectations has changed. So my employers' expectations have changed. When I went in with a commercial hat to oversee an outsourced finance function that was being provided by another company. And that was my skill set. So now they want to bring the finance function in, and that's not where my strengths are. So we're going through a restructure, so my role, is at risk. But that's life. And there's some changes here that say the secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new, by Socrates. That's what I hold on to. Change, if I have to look for another job, so be it. But the key thing is making sure that we have that resilient mind, because we're talking about post-COVID. We're not even there yet because we're still going through this pandemic. And I know that there's going to be a lot of change. And that's one key thing that we need, is that resilience, that we don't feel that we're hit. It's not the strongest or the most intelligent who will survive, but those who can best manage change. It's all about change. That's Charles Darwin. Another quote on change is, change before you have to. So which means you need to be ahead of the curve. And I'm going to be talking about that. Then the last one is progress. Progress is impossible without change. And when I finish, that's the next question I'll be asking you. What sort of change do you want? Do you want to progress? What is it that you want? But if you want to progress in your career as finance professionals, you must be prepared for change. And those who cannot change their mind cannot change anything. It's all about the mind. That's why I gave you a little hint about where I'm coming from. Some people see some of my classmates, because I was called Timidi. I had all sorts of nicknames. And I would just hide in a corner. Some of them don't remember me, and those that remember me would say, we're all on the same WhatsApp chat, and they'll say, is that not the same Timmy I just saw her on TV. They're still talking about me after how many years ago? But it's all about the mind and not holding on to our past. So, like I've said, change is everywhere. So we just have to get on with it. And some general facts. The key word that everybody's talking about now is about being able to pivot, being able to come up with a new strategy. Just like your compass in your math set, you just have to be firm where you are, but know how you can adapt and move. When the pandemic came out, a lot of global companies, any company had to, they were forced to. And my workplace was very traditional. So because of my CEO, didn't believe in working from home. He just didn't have that trust. But hey ho, he had no choice. We had to move to working remotely. And we have adjusted to the fact that we don't even want to go back into the office, and we're re-strategizing our premises and things like that. And likewise, there were some other sectors that were impacted by this change. We know what happened to the travel industry. It was grounded for months. Commercial real estate is really changing. People now know that they can get more out of their employees by letting them work in a more balanced environment where they're not far from home. They can access their family. So people are downsizing with their properties. Education sector they've had to pivot. So there's a lot more online learning. And also the retail, you can see a lot of the giants out there are folding up. The one I really remember is Primark, massively making its sales. I can't remember the figure. I think it was 500,000 every month in turnover. It was doing really well. And when the pandemic happened, it dropped to £0 in a matter of days. Why? They were not prepared for what came on. They didn't have any they hadn't gone online at all. So they just had no back end to handle that. There was nothing online. You had to go in the store. So they had to invest heavily into adapting to that environment. However, there are some companies that really boomed during this time. We know them: Netflix, Amazon, and the likes, that really, the lockdown really helped them. And there's been some fallouts from the lockdown. So we've had people that have been redundant, unemployed, sidelined, or their roles have been outsourced, or their companies have been merged or taken over or even closed. So there's so much that this pandemic has happened. So I want to open up by start about a change story that once happened to me, because we're just talking about change. The pandemic itself is a change. And change is constant. There's going to be something else. Before now, in 2000, there was all this hoo-ha about the computer system, the Y2K. Then we had the crash, the financial crisis. So there's always going to be change. So how do we prepare ourselves? Well, I found myself working for a particular company, and I was really, really enjoying it. I'm looking at my time because I don't want to go over. And I went in there. The company wasn't doing really well. I was able to turn it around. I was able to beef up the morale in the team. It was a team of 1. I grew it to a team of 14. So many achievements I did in the space of 18 to 2 years. And then and the management then, they loved me. And then a new management came in, but I didn't pick that up. And all of a sudden they wanted a new strategic direction. They just wanted something different. And I didn't pick that. My antennas just didn't pick that. I kept on doing the same thing that I was doing. And in order to meet so they had a new strategy, they had a new operational focus. They wanted different outputs. So they put a restructure together. And I remember going for the interview, and I thought, why would I be interviewing for my job? I put this finance team together. We are one of the best teams, or the high performing teams, and things like that. So they asked me, what would I do differently? And I said, with all confidence, I said, absolutely nothing. And guess what? I lost my job. And that was because I wasn't cognizant of my environment. I wasn't cognizant of my stakeholders and everything happening around me. Yes, I was broken. I was discouraged. I was determined. But I said it earlier on, I had to deal with my mindset and thought, no, I'm not going to behave like a deficit, somebody that's been defeated. I'm going to pick up the winner's mindset. And that's where my career turned, and I was able to pick myself up and continue on my journey. This happened about 9 years ago. So it's not, yes, it's long ago, but not too much. And these are things that we have to be aware of. So the crux of my talk today is about staying ahead of the curve. When we talk about it's not about it's more than post-pandemic. It's about how we manage change. And for me, what I've done in my career is understanding my career capital. We all have capital, and because you're finance individuals, you understand what capital is. Capital is that tradable element. You know, when you're starting a business, you start off with that, and the whole aim is to grow our capital, and what we do, we invest in that capital so that it grows, and then the business grows. That's from a business perspective. But likewise, when you have a career, it is the same thing. You have to understand your career capital, and you have to invest in it and develop it. And once you have that really buoyant, no matter what change comes, I believe you'd always be ahead of the curve. Yes, you might have to change jobs or do things, but you would always be in demand. You won't be outdated. And for me, like any capital, we talk about assets. You start off a company with a capital. Hopefully, you have your assets and liability. I'm an accountant, so bear with me. But the greatest asset you have is yourself. So what I'm talking about is an asset has to appreciate. So yourself, you have to appreciate. You can't be the same way you were. And I have one habit. My CV, every 6 months, I'm adding something. I review it. I don't wait until I'm looking for a job. So every 6 months, I review it. And if it's looking the same, then there's something I'm not doing right. I must be able to add something tangible to it and drop something that's all of a sudden become redundant because of the new achievements. And that could even be a cut, whatever it is. But I'm always reviewing my CV every 6 months. So let's quickly go into growing your career capital. So the first element is the skills and the experience that you have. You have to constantly invest in this. Now, most of us would have done some kind of formal training. And for me, that just gets you through the door. And it's good. But you need to have a habit. I talk about habit because that's something you do over time. It's not a one-off thing. That you need to be able to upskill. And the faster you upskill yourself, the more it's easier for you to be sought after and to stay relevant. People will know you for what that is. And then it's not just about developing formal skills. It's not just about the technical skills. When we talk about skills and experience, it's about building that resilience. It's about having emotional intelligence and having a social perception of what's going on around you. The example I shared earlier on was I was just not in touch with the environment. New management, I didn't see what their focus was. And be innovative, stay techie savvy. So I'll quickly whiz through this. What did I tell you? Know where you want to be. So be strategic, be intentional, and make sure you carry out a skills audit. So know what your gap is. Identify where you are now and where you want to be, and act proactively, plug that gap. So you might not be able to read all this, but the World Economic Forum, which is a forum for thought leaders in the world, so your ex-American presidents, your Obama and things like this, they will gather and they will talk about different issues. Now, what they've released these 10 skills that they believe is needed go beyond 2020. And I'll quickly touch on these. And these are skills that if you have them, I use them at where I've seen a gap, I've tried to plug it. So creativity is now needed. And being an accountant, growing up, being an accountant, I'm used to having these standards, presenting numbers in this way, doing things in that way. It's, accounting can be black and white. And I'm sure for finance, because I know finance is broad. It's not just about accounting. You've got banking, you've got different things in the finance world. But nowadays, they're looking for people that can come up with new ideas, that even if things are not that clear, you connect the dots with seemingly disparate information and throw all those ideas together and come up with something new, something novel. Oh, there's a problem here. They're looking for people that can solve problems. So you've got to be able to not just solve any problem, but solve a complex problem, a problem that is really ill-defined, and getting behind that. They're looking for people that are hot on emotional intelligence. And that is the intangible something that helps you tune into the kaleidoscope of human emotions and measure how adept we are at adjusting our behavior. So, adapting your behaviors depending on the mood of a colleague or even your own feelings. It's important that we know how to read people, how to show up, somebody was just coaching me on something recently on how you communicate. So if you're speaking with somebody that speaks very hard, very high pitched or very fast, you have to mirror it. And I'm like, really? Can I just talk the way I talk? But apparently that's how people gauge you and they build up their perception. So mirroring somebody's communication style, it's linked to emotional intelligence. The other one is about making sound decisions and judgments. Be brave enough to make a judgment call based on the information you have around you. Then the other bit is about being able to adapt, being flexible in the situation, not being told what to do, but just reading that information and adapt accordingly. Another skill set they picked up was about being able to critically think, being able to use logic and reasoning to interrogate an issue or a problem, to come up with pros and cons and then weigh them up. Just not take things as it's put in front of you. If a situation is put in front, don't just think there's only one solution. Think of what are the pros and cons, what are the different options, then weigh them up. That's a skill that will put you in a good stance in your career journey. The next one is people management. No one can really do and achieve a lot on their own. So you will find yourself as part of a team, and it's how you manage those different people, how you manage whoever you're working with, the team, or you might be working, it might be a matrix arrangement, but people management skills is important. The next point they picked up was about coordinating with others. So this is how you collaborate. So not necessarily managing people, but it's actually collaborating with people to achieve a common goal. And to do that, you need strong communication skills to be able to identify people's strengths and be able to work with a range of different personalities. And they also mentioned service orientation. This is all about actively looking for ways to help people and shining a spotlight on the users, not on yourself, and anticipating people's needs. So it's more about serving others. And another way to look at it is where you're adding value. And then the last point, skill set they spoke about is negotiation. This is just highly expected. It shows greater interpersonal skills. So these are the skills. So that's the first bit of, career capital. The second element is about how you grow and how you adapt yourself. In essence, this is where you constantly reinvent yourself. You have to build up your own brand and identify what your own unique selling point is. And earlier on, I mentioned about doing a skills audit. When you've done your skills audit and you know where you are now and you know where you want to be, it's about being honest with yourself. Yes, you might say I'm a finance director and things like this, but when I got into this position, I realized that there's a lot I lacked, and I still lack now that I've got a coach to help me with in the area of handling politics. And this is such a mystery for me because I'm kind of a direct person, but the sort of politics I'm dealing with now, I don't really feel comfortable with it. But I know that if I want to remain in the boardroom and things like that, I need to plug that gap. I need to do something with it. So you have to be honest with yourself and identify what that gap is. And just identifying the gap is not good enough. Then you put a growth plan around it. These are the steps you're going to do to then tackle and close that gap. The fact of the matter is, the more skills you have, the more adaptable you become. I'm an accountant, but then I'm currently leading a major systems transformation project, which involves us moving on to another platform. So my IT skills are coming into play. Now, my first degree was computer science over about 30 years ago. So, but I made sure I maintained that because nobody just wants a one-dimensional person. You have to have different facets to yourself. You have to be varied in your skills. And you have to constantly increase your capacity and your capabilities. And this comes by developing, growing, adapting, being flexible, not rigid. And then the next element is about connections and relationships. You need to build your network. to survive the post-COVID era, gone are it's about who's in your network professionally. So we have different networks. You have your social network, you have your family network, and different things like that. To be able to stand the test of time with all these changes that are happening, your connections, your professional connections and relationships have to be robust. And I tell people that there are 3 categories of people that you really need in this journey of career. You need a mentor, somebody who can share their experiences. You can learn from their own mistakes or the ways they've gone about things. And in Career Nuggets, that's what we do. Or a sponsor, somebody that can connect you to possible opportunities or people. And I know when I reached out to you, I was looking for a sponsor in that area for Career Nuggets. So it's having these kind of people in your circle. Now, sponsors tend to be, most of the time the company you work with. And I've used that before. Or the final one is a coach, somebody that you can use when you've identified a gap in your skill set or your experience and you need them to just help you develop that area. Even though I've mentioned them like 3 people, in some cases, you can get these 3 elements in one person. So, talking about connections and relationships, you've got to strategically build your career relationships. And by attending conferences like this, connecting with people on LinkedIn, but not just sending a friend request, build a rapport. Because a relationship only works when there's value in there. So there's an exchange. So attending professional networks, conferences, webinars, and things like that. And the last element, there are 4 elements to career capital. And the last element is having, which I touched on earlier on, is having a record of your achievements. When I talk about your achievements, what impact have you made in your current role? These things will come to play post-COVID because people go after where they know that somebody's adding value. What have you achieved? Operationally, achievements might be the task you do, but at a strategic level, it'll be more about how you've influenced things and you've brought development. So in summary about all the career capitals, career capital has 4 elements. I just summarized it here. The ways to be ahead of the curve is understand your working environment at a macro and micro level. Understand the game being played. The workplace is like a football, is a playing field. So you need to understand that game. And it varies from different industries, from different companies, but understand it. Constantly self-assess yourself. Don't drop any balls. Growth, and have a growth and a positive mindset. Always sharpen your axe. And there is this story of a wood cutter who had a task to cut 10 trees every week, and he will do that very diligently, very hardworking. And his boss was very happy with him. And then he got to that point, he was no longer able to cut 10 trees. And he kept on telling his manager, I'm actually spending longer hours. What's happening to me? I'm not shortening my hours. I'm actually working longer and I'm only able to do 6. And before he knew it, he was only doing 3. And it was like, this is affecting his performance. And he was really afraid. But the manager said, when last did you sharpen your axe? He hadn't. And that's why his performance ditched. So get your skills up to par. We've spoken about building your professional network. Then another thing that we all need to do now is develop your online presence. It's not good enough to have an account. You have to be visible. Everything now is really online. If you're looking for anybody, recruitment has moved a long way now. You can work from anywhere in the world nowadays because everything's a bit global. But people are surfing, checking people, reading people's profile, trying to understand. And my having an online presence has really helped me a great deal. I'm sure if I didn't have an online presence, I wouldn't be here. And I've had people reach out to me from different angles because of my online presence. So be visible. Then keep a success journal. That is a record of your achievements. And make sure your CV is up to date. Get a mentor for accountability and direction and leadership. You must be able to lead yourself and lead others. So I always like this, be audacious. The moment I discovered myself and got rid of that shyness, I've never looked back again. So, oops, not that one. So potential opportunity areas. So I'm summarizing what I'm saying now. I'm rounding up. I think I've got one more slide after this. And for finance individuals, in addition to the current skill sets you have, you need to have these ones. There's a lot of opportunities in business development because businesses need to change. Business digital transformation, it's a key area. Become tech savvy. It's beyond the spreadsheet. It's knowing a lot more to it. Change management, we're talking about change. It's a skill, it's something that you need to hone in. And nowadays, you can get so much, even on Google or in LinkedIn, they run so many courses, or even on YouTube, and just beef yourself up with the wording, the language. Project management is key, risk management is key, governance, stakeholder management, and any other value added process depending on which industry you're in. So, in rounding up, expect more change. That's the new normal. Think of innovative ways you can add value to yourself and to your company. And don't hold on to your past. I don't have time to talk about the elephant story. And always think outside the box. Things are not always black and white. Use your emotional intelligence to read the environment and think of a solution. Solutions might not necessarily be apparent, but they're there when you think outside the box. So that's me. Thank you for listening, and I look forward to the questions. So let me stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Morenike. That was 20 minutes of a lot of information. I mean, a lot. And I'm happy to say that we will have this this session recording. We'll have it on our YouTube channel within the next 24 hours. So you can always go back to run through it if you want to get some more information. All right, then. Thank you very much, Morenike. There's so much that you've shared. And I think two things, I mean, there's so much, but I'll just harp on two things that you've said. Understanding the environment and understanding the game that's being played. That's one thing we're not very good at as women. We can bury our heads in the sand or be totally oblivious. I know that I am. I mean, I've lost a job where I was going every day. I had no clue I was about to be made redundant, no clue whatsoever. I mean, talk about working in a different planet, you know. And so we have to learn and understand our environment. You can't be a silo or isolate yourself and just think I'm doing my job, you know, my job will speak for me. There are connections you have to work, and which was the next thing you talked about as well. Your connections and your relationships, work on them, increase your capacity, increase your capabilities, you know. But the most important one she said that I liked, and I think I'll leave that as third, okay, actually there are four more, was upgrading your skills, sharpening your axe, and you know, learning something new at least every 6 months. You know, that's really so important. But she also says, be intentional about what you're learning. Just don't pick random courses, how to sit up at work and how to stand in a queue. You know, just make sure that the courses are relevant and can advance you. Really, yes, the temptation to attend as many as you see coming around is good because it's all online and they're mostly free. But you've got to be very strategic about it. Why am I attending this? And where is it going to take me? And the last one, well, I'll stop, is she said, keep a success journal. I don't know any species that does not like to toot their horn as women. I am guilty of it. You know, we're embarrassed by the things that we've done. And I wonder why. Who told us that, you know, you have to be embarrassed about it? You know, share what you've done. There may be somebody who's going to be encouraged and who's going to actually take a leap of faith from hearing the things that you've done. So keep a success journal. I think one of the things I'm going to do from this is maybe in 3 months, by next quarter, we'll ask people to share, you know, maybe at our next meeting, share on what you've been able to achieve for the last 6 months. Maybe that's what we will do. Naomi Florence, let's keep a tab of that and be sure that we can do that. You know, keep a success journal. It also helps to encourage you. I'll tell you, I used to write a column And so I write. And a few weeks ago, I saw a column, something I had written in 2015, and I shared it on Facebook. Believe me, when I read it, I said to myself, girl, you are smart. I mean, I had to say that to myself, you know? And I mean, I wasn't feeling very smart that day, but it helped to bolster my confidence, you know, and it made me think, if you could do that, then come on, you can do a whole lot more, you know? So of course there are seasons, you know, there are ebbs and flows, but we must keep that success journal so that we manage the momentum and we keep going. So really, this is practical and very, very easy to engage with. I'm going to ask if you have questions, and please, people, don't let me down. Have questions, you know, I have questions. Okay, so I'm going to ask if we have questions. There's one already here. Oh, there's two questions. Thank you so much. So the first one is from Deji, and she says, what would you have done differently had you been aware of the current pandemic to be ready for change? Morenike, I mean, none of us could have expected this level of change and chaos or disruption, but what would you have done differently if it was you?
I think that's why I started that the pandemic is just an example of a change. Change would happen anytime, and all we can do to be prepared for change is to make sure we're aware of our situation. So yes, the pandemic caused a lot of people to now be working from home. Yes, I built relationship, but I think my relationship building now is different because not only am I networking more internally, so I was building a lot on my networks outside. And when you don't see people, you know, you take it for granted that, well, I'll meet them in the office and I'll deal with that in the office. So I've had to devise ways on how I can engage with um, my colleagues, you know, virtually. So what I intend to do is to make sure I kind of build that it's a relationship internally within the organization. Work on that a lot. Understand how people engage, because when you're in the office with people, you just engage with them the way you think it is, and just knowing and keeping a record. So with my CEO, um, you know, I just used to pop into his office, update him. Then we'll have one-to-ones in the calendar. But I didn't really understand that when he said he doesn't like people working from home and he likes people around. The change I needed to do was every Monday morning I had to give him a list of the things I'm going to work on for the week. Now, initially when he said that, I thought that's like a why would anybody? How is he going to have time to micromanage and understand? I have to list everything I'm going to do, and would he ever read that? So I didn't really warm up to it. Maybe that was the stubborn nature of me. But my other colleagues did it, and I learned that, you know, you have to understand what your stakeholder wants and what they need and adapt accordingly. So probably those are the sort of things I would talk about. In my case, that's the adjustment I made.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yomi, you have your hand raised up. Do you want to ask a question or you want to type it in the chat box?
I'd like to ask a question, if you don't mind.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Yomi. Thank you very much. I know I'm a male guy. I know I'm the only hot one. So what I wanted to drop was that when I relocated to where I am right now, I was struggling. It was really struggle for me because of where I was coming from and all of that. But one thing I find out is, like you said, whatever you're working on, the initiative you're taking, let your boss be aware. So what I did was, I'm a relationship person with a bank. I went to all the dormant accounts, I scooped them out, and I started establishing relationship with those guys. But because I didn't get any success, I wasn't sharing it with my boss until I sat in meetings like this and I found out that those initiatives that you have taken, you know, blow your trumpet. If you don't blow it, nobody else will blow it for you. So I started discussing with my boss that, oh, you know what I did? All the dormant account, I started talking to them and I was able to get 3 referrals. I was able to book like 4 meetings, and he was quite excited that, look, this guy could take this initiative. And since then, he's taken interest in me, and things have been, you know, now I don't struggle like the way I used to struggle anymore. I just feel I should share that as one of the things, you know, one should be looking out to. And it's not been easy moving from Nigeria to where I am and all that. So that's my contribution. Thanks a lot.
And thank you, because what you said there is so so valid. And that's just a cultural thing. I mean, here in the UK, the culture is absolutely, it's about saying things. I mean, I'm not saying lie, but I work with some colleagues that will have a discussion. I would say something very flippant, and the next thing in the meeting, they're literally talking about the same thing, like it's their own their own discussion, and the way they beef it up, and the way, I'm thinking, whoa, and I've learned to be able to own my space and own what is mine. So even if they say that, I say, oh yes, that's what funny enough, that's what we're discussing a few minutes ago. Oh yes, when I said this, so I'll put my own there too. Now that has come with a lot of practice, because naturally, most of us would have these humble beginnings. We don't really say much, but we do a lot. And now you
And now,
Sorry, who's that?
okay. Yeah, so I just wanted to commend the gentleman. Thank you, Yomi, for boldly coming out and sharing what you said, because that's so key. Anywhere in the world now, if you don't sing your own trumpet, nobody would. And the thing is, whatever you do, even though people see the results, you have to highlight it before they would reward you for it. But I wanted to just quickly drop something in that a friend shared with me during one of my academy sessions, and this is about understanding our environment. And I don't know, you might have heard him before. He might have shared it with you. He's Yemi Fascio. I don't know if anybody knows him, and he was talking about the environment you work.
the environment you work.
Is that me echoing? Okay, so the environment we work in is likened to the wild, like the jungle, and therefore he mentioned it's about who can survive the jungle, and he likened it to the animal kingdom. So he started off with a sheep. There's no way the sheep will survive. Okay, I think everybody's on mute. Okay, so he likened the workplace to the animal kingdom, and he started off with a sheep. A sheep is unlikely to survive the wild because a sheep does what he's told. And sometimes people in the workplace there's some people, they will do whatever they're told to do. They would only do what they're told to do. They won't really use their initiative or say anything. Give them a task, they do it. When it comes to the politics we talk about, they don't survive it. Then the next animal he mentioned was the donkey. And we know the donkey put as much weight, as much workload on it, it's still going, and it's going and it's going. And he survives a bit, but after a while, we know what happens to the donkey. He's old, and what does the owner do? They just abandon him. And there's some people like that. They keep on taking everything that's thrown on them in the workplace, and they're not saying anything. They need extra help. They're not saying anything. They're not getting any reward for it. The donkey doesn't get any reward. He said that's another animal that we can look at. Then he mentioned the fox. Now, who's the fox from what we all know? Somebody put in the chat. A fox is what? Did I get any answer? No, nobody's. Oh, I like interaction. Guys, tell me. Yeah, Connie. Okay, Connie, yes. Connie, sly, but also clever. So the fox just knows how to wing it. And if anybody's read Red Riding Hood, you know how he got in there in his own Connie way? You have the fox. So these are the foxes in the workplace. They know where the power is in the workplace, and they're in with them. They're not really doing anything. They're not hardworking, but they're in with the key people, and they're getting by. To a certain extent, they survive, but after a while, they get sussed out because they're not delivering. But the animal that we should really be like is the owl. Why? The owl he can turn his head 270, so he sees everything around him. He stays on the top. When everybody's sleeping, that's when he's awake. So he's so in tune with his environment. He's actually, when we talk about the owl, what do we think of the owl? We think of a wise bird, don't we? We link him with wisdom. And really, to survive that work environment, you need wisdom. You need to sit in a place where you have that visual, the 270 degrees. You can see everything, not just a tunnel eye vision. And I think it's so key that we know all these things when we're working in the workplace. Are there any more questions? I just wanted to drop that there.
Yes, thank you so much. That's so true. So I'll honor you going forward. Okay, great. We have another question here on, Stella, I'll come to you in a minute, please. We have one question here. It says, can you expand on what you mean by having a presence, an online presence? I have a LinkedIn account, but what else can I do as I'm not currently in a paid employment?
All right. So when I say having a presence, what is it that you like doing? Blog about it. I mean, I had a lady that came on my academy, and she started anything she learned in the academy. She was just putting a little piece out on leadership, and she got somebody reached out to her that is she looking for a job. What I'm saying is, if you don't, the way this any social platform works, if you don't put anything out, nobody will find you. You'll be at the bottom. But when you post daily or once a week or something like that, it uses algorithms that brings you to the top. So if any recruiter is searching, and let's say you're in project management or something, or relationship management like Yomi, so he could do some blogs on relationship management. Exactly what he shared tonight, he could share that. You could actually share on what we're talking about. I was attending this conference. You're dropping a hint to tell people that I'm actually continuously developing myself, and this is what I learned. You can just do a little blob about that. Some interaction. That is better than just having an account. That's what I mean by having a presence. You don't necessarily need to open your own social enterprise or something. If you want to, yes, you can. But it's about talking. And if you don't have an idea of your own, somebody writes a blog. Comment on that blog. Put your own insight in there. You just never know who's going to read it. And there's some people that they spend a lot of time. I mean, I network a lot with recruiters because of my social enterprise, and that's what they do. Gone are the days where they try and take somebody out for tea, coffee. You can't even do that in the pandemic anyway. So that's where the world is moving on. That's what I meant. I hope that helps.
Yes, it does. Okay, thank you. Deji, you had something you wanted to share?
Yeah, thank you so much, Morenike. It's been exciting listening to you, and most of the things you said, in fact, all of the things you said are so true and evident in especially my journey. But I just thought to share something about LinkedIn. A few years ago, I would say the anniversary of the pandemic, which was March 2020, was the last time I was inactive on LinkedIn, because at about that time, I was preparing to attend a conference that opened my eyes to why I needed to be visible. I have always thought LinkedIn was for people looking for jobs, and I wasn't. So I just had my profile, and I had nothing, absolutely nothing on there. I was just like my sister, who still doesn't have anything on her profile. But then I decided to blow my trumpet and tell myself, because my intention at that point was to tell myself who I am first before I let people know who I am. So I sat down and I wrote exactly who I am, not with my job or anything, but my aspirations, where I want to be, the places I am interested in, the things I like to do, the commissions I'm interested in, the charities I would like to work with or I identify with. And I realized that it was getting bigger. My computer page was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, from one page to 2 pages. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. Okay, let's put it there. And when I put it there and I went back to look at it, it gave me more, it encouraged me more to be able to, decide, do I want to be interactive on LinkedIn? I tried Facebook, but it's not for me, and it's definitely not for professionals. So I said, okay, I know I have a phobia for Facebook. Let's see how LinkedIn turns out. But then I did what Morenike said. I found some people I believed in and their journeys that I wanted to mirror, and I started to follow them. I connected with them, and then I didn't just send an invite. I actually sent a message. And at some point when I was a bit rich, I signed up to the premium so I could really interact more. Of course, I've gone off premium for now, but it helped me interact with people who matter. And that's where in my organization, I was able to move from just being on the lower stakeholder level to talking to my CEO and exchanging emails with senior stakeholders, because they will check you out. They will check out, who is this person? She's just wrote about this. And there's absolutely nothing you can't put on LinkedIn. It doesn't have to be your content. As long as you give the honor to the person who owns the content, people will read it. And you will start getting emails from LinkedIn to say you are being noticed. I love to see that. I'm that vain. You are being noticed. And that is really key. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to be worried about not having a job now. Worry about knowing who you are, where you want to be, and what you want to paint yourself as. How do you want to be introduced in 5 years' time? Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much, Deji. And yes, I can attest to the efficacy of Deji's profile. I fished her out on LinkedIn. I saw a little video that she did. I think she was getting an award. And I thought with a name like Deji Oludotun, definitely you need to be in Women in Finance. And so that's how I reached out to her. So yes, it really does work, and you have to go for it. All right, Stella, we're happy to hear from you, Stella.
Right. Thanks, Jude. Morenike, thank you so much for a very insightful talk. It's very practical, as everyone.
You're muted.
We've lost you, Stella.
Okay, I muted myself. Okay, now saying thank you so much for speaking to us. It was very practical and very insightful. Now, I have a question. You know, there are 3 categories of people you'd mentioned that we need along this journey: the mentor, sponsor, and coach. Now, what I've found is that the coach is probably someone who is within your work environment, so that's not so difficult. A mentor, people generally like to speak about their accomplishments. Where I have a gap, I must admit, is the issue of a sponsor. What tips would you give us identifying that sponsor, contacting them without coming across as needy or stalking them, especially with the connection you're requesting is not necessarily within your organization? So I think that I could do with, some tips as to how to get to that connection, which I think would make quite a bit of difference right now. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Stella. So, like you said, but a coach, sometimes, in most cases, are people you pay for. They're not necessarily in your organization. So I just wanted to clarify that. So when it comes to getting a sponsor, once you're very clear with what you want, then you need to reach out to the person directly. But one of the sponsorship relationships that I've seen that's really worked is when you have something to also bring to the table. Because basically you're wanting somebody to use their connection, use their influence to give you something. And somebody like that is obviously an influencer, somebody that naturally has done it, and they don't want to feel used. So they're doing this for so many others. The quicker way that's worked for me, and it's as simple as maybe they write articles. There's a way that you found them, and this is how I've used them in the past. Not used, it's not a good word to say used, but how I've reached out to a sponsor in the past for a mentee of mine is you follow them. You take an interest in what they're doing, so they see that track record. So you're liking, you're commenting, they have a program or something, or they're speaking somewhere. And I remember when I wanted to get this lady, she was speaking, and the event was £199. I went. They were only when I went to the event, it was very private. There were only 12 of us. It was such a lovely environment for me to then reach out to talk to her. It was one of those events that I'm thinking, the only thing I'm getting here is by speaking to her. There wasn't any other value. But what I'm saying is, but that meant a lot to her. That all I did was I saw this event on LinkedIn and I showed up. I was the only Black woman. And she was like, and then we had a chit chat. I told her what I did, what I need, and she was all out to do it. Getting the sponsor really is easier. You have to find out what they like. Some of them just want a thank you. They want some praise, and you'd be amazed. That's all they want. They give a lot out there and nobody says thank you. I know how many people I've helped, and all I get in my inbox is, oh, I'm looking for this. I want a mentor. I want somebody to help me that. And yes, you keep on giving at some point, but you get that one person that all they say is thank you for what you do. It makes my day. They just need to drop the next question and I'm all over it. And it's happened. I remember when a lady that had been following me, and I don't think she was, you don't do these things intentionally. Well, you do it intentionally, but also you have a good mind that you're really appreciating what they do. And she was doing that. So when her son finished, we got chatting. She told me her son was about to finish uni. I said he must reach out to me. And before he'd finished, I was speaking to all sorts of people that I could come across. And he came out of uni and walked straight into a lovely job. But that's what a sponsor would do for you, because they will create the opportunities. But you need to also come from their angle, not what you want. I don't know if that helps.
It most certainly does. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just, it's Teresa here. I just wanted to add something to that about a coach, and I agree with you, Morenike, about the role that a coach can play, and also, where you find a coach. From my experience, I've used a coach in my career, and this was at a point where I was feeling very much stuck in a rut, where, you kind of feel you're doing this job, to all intents and purposes, you're good at what you do. But somehow, you're not really seeing where you're going to go with that, or you're kind of feeling a little bit restless within that. And using a career coach for me was such an eye-opener, because it just made me, working with someone who was able to challenge the way, I thought about things, challenge my perspective on things, challenged, me as an individual in terms of how I viewed myself. And I mean, you talked about successes and how we as women don't like to really sometimes promote or acknowledge even what we're good at. So working with a coach, was really, able to help me focus on, weaknesses, strengths, challenging the way I thought about my career, where I might want to go. And, sometimes we don't have the confidence to kind of put yourself forward, because you kind of say, well, I kind of, don't have the skills to do blah, blah, blah. But they kind of say, okay, well, you have all these other things. So on that, build on that. It kind of helps you to also think about what direction you might want to go. And, we're quite quick at saying, well, I'm not really qualified for that sort of thing. But it's like, well, you have all of these skills which are transferable into this new thing. So in actual fact, from my experience, I found coaching, and I cannot, emphasize this, and I cannot recommend this highly enough. Using a coach allowed me to, you use the word pivot. I took a break from work last year. When I went back, I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm not going back into my old job. And I was lucky enough that the firm I work for, they kind of valued me enough to almost create a new role for me, which was not a job I had done before, transformation role, not a role I had done before, but using the skills that I had, I knew that I was able to, be able to transition into that new role. So, I would say to everyone on the call, if you ever have an opportunity to work with a career coach, I mean, sometimes it is very expensive, but worth every penny, I would say.
Thank you very much, Teresa. Thank you. Okay, any other question? Thank you very much. So there's something else that Morenike said, that it just popped up at me now. It says, don't be outdated, learn to move with the trends, just do what is what is acceptable here, and what is the competitive edge, not necessarily within a box, but, step out of yourself. Just try, do a video, write a short story, write about your experience, send out messages to people on LinkedIn and say, this is me, this is what I do, and I'd like to connect with you, or I'd like to ask you to share something with me. Be bold, be courageous. The worst they can do is ignore you. That's the worst. That's the word. I mean, they're not going to jump through the LinkedIn page and come at you. So the worst they can do is ignore you. And then, maximize those connections. I think that's where a lot of us need to work, maximizing your connections. We do know a lot of people, but we don't know what to say to them, or how to engage them, or how to advance ourselves or project ourselves with them. And that's a skill we really, really need to know. I think, wow, I can't believe it. We've really taken a good time. Morenike, thank you. This has been a great conversation. If we don't have any other question, yes, Teresa.
Yeah, I just wanted to just also comment on something else, Morenike talked about a lot at the start, which is change. And, she gave us some fantastic quotes there, all true. So I think, hopefully we'll get the slides, and that's something that everyone should put on their wall and remind themselves, because what we know is constant is change. So, I think everyone should be open-minded and, like you say, really be aware of how things are evolving and changing within your organization, but also within your, the organizations of the clients of your organization as well, because often that's a catalyst for change as well. But also to be able to think about change not as a threat, but as an opportunity. It's kind of two sides of the same coin. So it depends on, the way you want to look at it. And, I've been in an organization where we are constantly going through change all the time. And, when I first joined the organization, it was a very uncomfortable for me, but, I've come to the realization that this is the world we live in. Everything's changing, everything changes so fast, and organizations are trying to adapt to that COVID and all of those impacts. So, as a person, I've learned to be kind of a little bit more open-minded and attuned to, where those changes are happening, how those changes are happening, and how myself I can be positioned so that when the change happens, hopefully, you'll either be all right, or, you are well positioned, upskilled to be able to kind of future-proof yourself to go on to something hopefully bigger and better.
Thank you again, Theresa. Just this week, I attended a couple of sessions on upskilling, upgrading, managing your, just to get myself ready for this. And I discovered, I don't know if anyone else has, I discovered a commission that we have here in the UK, the Financial Services Skills Commission. Has anyone ever heard of them? Well, apparently, yeah, then they're pretty active, and they had a report they published last year, I believe. And if you just check their website, Financial Services Skills Commission, and they say that in the financial services, we are facing a crisis where the skill set that's needed for the future is not really there. And a lot of job roles are going to change. And so the onus is on the financial services industry experts and participants to upskill and begin to think about how we're going to advance. Of course, they focus a lot on employers. Employers should invest in their staff, etc. But we as financial services workers should also have play a key role and be sure that we're really upskilling. So don't become a dinosaur. Refresh yourself. Rebrand, do something. It's really quite possible. Okay, I think I am happy to say that we will be heading to wrap this up in a very short while. Morenike, any last words you want to say to us?
It's been a brilliant session, just hearing all the contributions. Thank you everyone for engaging. And what I would just say is make sure you check your career capital. How big is your pot? And do the necessary to keep it full. And remember, you're the greatest asset to invest in yourself. Thank you.
Thank you. Morenike, well, I guess Morenike's details, you could connect with her on LinkedIn. Yes, she's available. Morenike, if you would like to, you can drop your LinkedIn or contact details and we can check you out and find out. Yomi has a comment here that, okay, there you go. Thank you. Okay. Oh, well, now I can't find the chat box. Okay, there it is. Okay. I'm trying to read Yomi's comment. Oh, great. Thank you, Deji. Deji confirms the commission and that they're on LinkedIn. And so you can follow them as well, Financial Services Skills Commission. All right. So LinkedIn is a good place for us to be in and to fish out things that can help us advance in our career. Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. It's been an absolute pleasure having Morenike with us. The conversation has been practical, open, and very, very, very insightful. I think we can all say thank you very much. There was a question I missed, something about humility. Oh, I'm so sorry. Did I see that? Oh, I'm not sure. I thought I saw a question about humility and faith. Was there a question like that?
Yes, Uju, there was a question that said, how would Morenike explain or talk about humility and being humble in your work as a Christian? I can't remember who raised that, if I'm correct.
Okay.
Yeah, there is a question there that says, what's your take on humility or being humble or projecting humility at work, especially as a Christian? For me, that's a bit of a conversation because it's a very subjective thing. What do we interpret as being humble? So for somebody, it might be just keeping quiet when some people are talking, but that's nothing biblical, to be honest. What God tells us, and I'm not trying to preach to anyone, is that we are a city on the hill. So we're not hidden. We're a light, and wherever we go, we add salt, we add flavor, we bring something to the table. So, and I don't know. So it's a bigger topic, but for my case, where I had to step up was because I was shy. That's the only reason why I wasn't speaking up, and it didn't get me anywhere. So I had to make that change. So I think living our Christian values in the workplace should actually be there. That's where you're talking about integrity. You're talking about those values are key. I would not compromise on that. But my take on humility is I don't know. The question is a bit vague for me unless I have an example to substantiate it there. I can't really talk much about it. But I think the person that wrote the question is there. That's Desola. If you want to expand on that, I would really love to hear your viewpoint.
Hi, yes, my name is Deshala. And so basically it's how people, fantastic. I really love this. I've got I'm in Nigeria, but I've got 2 of my friends to join because we have these conversations all the time. And it's how people, I guess, because you don't want to talk about their achievements, right? So when I say it's about tooting your own horn, and it makes it seem, and maybe it's also being Nigerian or as well, how you don't really talk about your achievements. It seems like you're bragging, and so we sort of take that into the workplace. Conversation my friends and I have is my friend, I think she's, oh, I really don't want anybody I just want to do the work. And I keep saying that you can't just do the work. You have to let people know, you have to have these conversations, you have to speak about what you're doing. And, you know, I think it's part of upbringing, faith, being African. I think it's a mix. So it's just basically, I just wanted to hear your take on that. I don't know if that is clear.
No, it's clearer now. Thank you so much for saying that. And look, this thing, what we're talking about is coming out and being able to own your own achievements. It's a work in progress, and it's just taking the step. But you have to be intentional about it. You don't just go about blotting about what you've done to anybody. You've got to know who are you speaking to. And it's got to be the right person. So the places where I would expect you to do that would be maybe during your appraisal, during your one-to-one with your manager. It's not just saying, well, have you done this? I've done that. Talk about how I did it, who I engaged with. This is how I got to that result. It's expatiating a little bit more on that deliverable. So it's knowing where to say it and when. That's where we need wisdom like the owl to operate. It's not just about, because you can talk about it, and if you're talking to the wrong people, they'll just run with it and turn it into their own. So you just got to know the right place and right time where you talk about your achievements.
All right. Thank you very much again, Morenike. It's been really, really, really good having you on. And we're glad you could make time out for Women in Finance Nigeria UK chapter. We've shared our membership forms and our LinkedIn and Instagram handles. So please follow us, like us, share something with us, and let's keep the conversations going. Our next event will be in Q3, and we hope you'll be able to join us. So on behalf of my EXCO and the Women in Finance Nigeria, I want to say a big thank you to Morenike. We're very happy that you were able to be with us, and thank you for a very good conversation. And to everyone who attended, thank you very much. I hope this has helped you to build up the capacity and the knowledge and the information you need to take the right decisions about your career. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a good weekend and see you again soon. All right. Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, Deji. Bye.